I knew the cost of home ownership and maintaining a house was going to be expensive, but dear God, we closed on this home less than 2 weeks ago at this point. My bank account has been fighting for its life all of those 2 weeks. Let me just share with you what we spent on this house during that time frame. $275.60 for a locksmith to change all the locks on the home. $455.40 for a whole house cleaning before we move in. We dropped $2,982.75. This was the 50% deposit that we needed to put down to get a privacy fence installed in our backyard. We knew we wanted a privacy fence at some point, but we weren't planning on doing it this quickly because there is already a fence there. It's just really, really old and it was rotten in some places, but we thought we could make do with it. But then the other day we took the dogs to the house for the first time and my dog made a beeline for the hole in the fence, and we were just like, oh no, we're gonna have to get this done like immediately.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So another video about how you should buy a home to prevent the house poor phenomenon. I agree with what she's saying thus far about her bank account not being prepared for the amount of monies that come out of your pocket when you're buying a home. And this is new or existing, doesn't matter, because there's a lot of costs associated with moving. As she just stated, a privacy fence that they knew they were going to put in, but didn't anticipate doing it as soon as they did it. So the goal of the video today is just to reiterate and remind you that if you buy a home, regardless of the cost, you must have some money left over. You can't use every cent that you have to just get into the home. You have to have reserves. And if you never use them, good on you. But you have to anticipate things are gonna have to be purchased, and it does not have to be associated with a repair. As she stated, privacy fence isn't something that you have to have. And then there's levels of fences that you could get. So know thyself, understand it takes money. Let's continue to hear what she has to say.
Next, we spent $250 on having a structural engineer come out. This actually saved us like thousands of dollars. Before we closed on the house, we had an inspector come out and they found cracks on the outside of the house and mentioned we might want to have like a structural engineer come out. We could not schedule the structural engineer to come out during our inspection window. We could only get a foundation company to come out and inspect it. And the foundation company, you know, they try to sell you on services. They told us that it was a structural issue, but it would only cost like around $10,000, which if you know anything about structural issues, they can be like, I mean, multiple tens of thousands of dollars. So we were like, okay, $10,000, if the sellers will like, you know, cover that, then we'd be fine with it. Basically, we were able to get like all of our closing costs covered plus some so that we could fix that issue.
Okay, so this is actually a good thing, and I just want to stop quickly. Editor, put up over here the 2026 home buying blueprint. I think that this is a great video for you to watch because we break down why you want to have an inspection. And she just mentioned why inspections was a good thing because it's going to allow her to negotiate a better positioning for her. But here's the deal. To stick with the context of this video, you have to have the ability to pay for an inspector. And those monies that you're paying, in essence, that insurance policy is not credited towards the other closing costs that you may have to consummate to close on this home loan. Moreover, had that been a deal killer for her and or them, you have to be willing and able to walk away from $300 to $1,500. It was a larger home, but the inspection was $2,500. I also have a client, a repeat client, that the last home that they bought, they walked away from 3 homes, and that's 3 inspection costs, well over $3,000. So you have to know this before you buy. And I love these videos. Hopefully now what we have going on as far as you all that are wanting to buy, we have more of a realistic picture, and you all are going to learn what questions to ask yourself and the professional that is trying to sell you something opposed to one that's trying to help you make the best decision on affordability. Just wanted to stop there because a lot of people glaze over that, and you have to be able to have those reserves and the ability to walk away if a deal is bad, because I've seen people buy homes that they would not otherwise have purchased because they can't afford to lose $300, $400, $500, or even on an appraisal. Let's continue.
Got the structural engineer to come out, and he was basically like, this is not a structural issue at all. So yeah, we basically saved like thousands of dollars getting the structural engineer to come out. We also had to spend $393.80 on heating oil because our HVAC system runs on heating oil. It's actually a dual system. So we have like an electric heat pump, but when it gets really, really cold, it kicks in with a heat oil system. And last but not least, we had to pay $99 for an HVAC service call because basically our heat went out at the house. That's when we noticed that the heating oil was out. So we got the oil refilled and the heat was still not cutting on. They fixed everything. It was actually a pretty simple fix, but we wouldn't have known how to do it. So in total, in the less than 2 weeks since we've closed on this house, we have paid $4,456.55. I feel like a majority of all these things.
So yeah, want to stop her there because really those are monies that were well spent in this case, because if you heard her earlier, the sellers contributed like $10,000 towards their closing costs. So shout out to her and her realtor and the inspector. But here's the point, guys. You gotta have some monies because even when everything goes right, you're gonna want furniture. I'm telling you, you're gonna want it. And hopefully what you don't do is go to these furniture places that offer 12 months, 24 months savings cash. And then before you know it, you spent thousands, in some cases, hundreds of thousands of dollars getting the stuff that you want because you're in that frenzy. You just bought a home. One thing I would caution you on is this: get into the home, and the plan of action is this. You should have 3 months minimum of your house payment, principal, interest, tax, and insurance, whatever your lender has told you what that's going to be. That should be left in reserves, minimum. And then secondly, govern yourself. Do you have to buy everything at that time? And that's going to be something you have to fight, because even my most recent home that we moved into, the home that we live in now, right? I tell you, man, I had to pump the brakes. I was in that euphoric, you just bought something new, and I don't believe in paying bills. So we paying cash for everything and taking folks out to eat, and we kicking it. And I had to look up. Good thing I run my numbers weekly. And I was like, hold up, swole up. We done spend, beep, 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 beep. Let me pump the brakes, right? Because in that euphoria and things of that nature, you could lose yourself. And in your future self, or when something comes up that is necessary, then this is why we have to go borrow monies and so on and so forth. So hopefully this young lady and her family bodes well in their house. But let me let this last gentleman give you a little more framework, some guide rails on how to make sure you don't become house poor. Let's check it out.
Many millennials regret buying homes. This is why it's important for you to run your numbers so that you don't end up house poor. Let me show you what I mean. What you can qualify for and what you can comfortably afford is sometimes two different things. So if you make $100,000, the typical debt to income ratio a lender is going to use when qualifying you is about 40%. That gives you $40,000 divided by 12 months, gives you a monthly allowance of $3,333 if you have no debt. So you could buy probably around a $400,000 house. Your payment would be around $3,300 and you would just qualify and you'd be celebrating. But the next step you must take with your family is, what is your take-home pay? If you make $100,000, your take-home pay is around what? $6,200? If your house payment without utilities or anything is $3,300, that is 53% of your net pay. This is where you're creeping into the house poor area, and you don't want to be there. But I understand your frustration, because you're like, hey, I make 100 grand. How can I find anything for under 400,000? Because back in the day, the financially responsible thing to do was to have your house payment be about 30% of your net. But if that were true for someone making 100K today, they would have to buy a $240,000 home, which doesn't really exist in most places. So I understand your frustration. But when you sit down with your lender, also sit down with your family, talk with your lender, and look at your net pay so that you don't end up house poor and you can actually enjoy the home you're purchasing.
I agree with him on everything other than you can't find a house for $240,000. We have to stop purporting that misinformation. There's certain markets, 2 or 3 that I can think of, where you can't find a house for $240,000. But even in those states, you can find a house for $240,000. The deal is you don't want that house. I get it. That's a different conversation. But as far as what he's saying, I'll summarize it like this. And for those of you that are channel members, I say this all the time, but we qualify you as a lender on the gross, but you live on the net. And here's the deal, caveat emptor, buyer beware. It's on you. It's on you to know your numbers. Go back 3 months so you could project 2 years years forward. What do I mean by that? Look at your bank statements. Look at whatever vehicle you're using to transact. Most of us are using some type of digital processes. If you're still analog and writing checks, go look at that check ledger, go back 3 months and add up what you're spending. That's who you are. That's your behavior, and should tell you, aside from any anomalies, all the subscription services, the Amazon, the eating out, everything, what you're spending. That is your monthly nut, right? Now, on top of that, you're going to add this proposed house payment. In his example, all of that needs to fall within that 43%. I like that number because inflation is higher. Things are more expensive than they were 20 years ago. We don't have to go back 50. Hell, you can go 5 years ago. Things are higher. And the chances of them being higher in the future are such that you need to be mindful of this when you're buying and not get caught up in, oh, I bought my first house at 22. You don't get a sticker for buying a house at 22. You have to be able to keep the house. And as he says, you want to be able to enjoy it, and you don't want to be house poor. Everything that we've aforementioned in these videos and with these creators, these are things that make you or can cause you that feeling of being house poor and stuck. And it all boils down to a budget and knowing before you owe. Know before you owe and make sure you have monies left over after you purchase. If you like these types of videos, hit the like, subscribe, and that notification button. 74% of you guys watch the videos, but you're not subscribed. I appreciate it. Thank you in advance. It really helps out. That said, if you're in a place where you say, you know what, Robert, I've budgeted, I'm good to go, I know my numbers, I just want to partner with somebody that I can trust to help guide me and protect me from myself as far as knowing how much home to buy, I'd like to throw my name in that hat. Because I'm a lender. NMLS license number 180100. Doing this for 23 years now. If that's interesting to you, my contact information is in the pinned comment or in the description of this video below. There you have it, guys. My time is up, but I thank you for yours. As I always say, let's be good to one another. Let us let grace abound. Check out these next 2 videos here. They'll help you on your journey. And for the rest of you, indeed, y'all stay blessed.